Okay, perfect. Hello, everyone. Um,
Hey everyone,
Hi, good morning.
good
Mhm.
morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining today's session. And I know it's a little bit late, but we'll get started right away. And so today we have our guest speaker, Precious, who is a software engineer, and he is going to help us better understand on the topic of from cloud to cloud brilliance, where we will discuss a little bit about the application performance monitoring and some of the details and yeah, so we'll just get into the session before it's too late and yeah, so stage is all too precious. Over to you.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're connecting from. My apologies for the delay. I had a bit of an issue with my system. Okay, so with that out of the way, thank you for joining me on today's session. Please, if you could just confirm you can hear me, just type yes in the comments and we can go on. All right. So, first of all, I'm just gonna extend an appreciation to the Java Dev team for inviting me for this talk, and really thank you all for being here today. It's such an honor to be talking to everyone here. As said, my name is Precious, and I'm a software engineer. And today we're going to be talking about a very important topic in the world of software engineering. At some point, we've all used applications and services, and I assume that we all here have some level of technical experiences. However, if you do not, it's okay. We'll go along and try as much as possible to be simple as possible for everybody to understand. Okay. All right. So with that out of the way, the topic for today is going to be focused on cloud development and deployment. So we're going to be focusing on key aspects of deploying your apps on cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, but particularly in this talk, we're going to be focusing on a popular cloud provider called DigitalOcean. And we're also going to be focusing on the aspect of application performance monitoring with the ELK stack. Okay. And this stack is a very popular one of many that could be used. But for the purpose of this session, we're going to keep everything simple as possible. And a lot of assumptions will be taken into account as we have already wasted a lot of time. And we'll just go forward with the rest of the talk. If at any point you can't hear me, please indicate in the comments and I'll do my best to solve the issue quickly. Are we good to go? Please, yes, if you're still here. All right. So the agenda, like I already said for today, is we're going to be starting off with the introduction to application performance monitoring and cloud. Then we will move over to get started with droplets, which is a term used to it's an alias for the word VM, virtual machines, which is used particularly by DigitalOcean cloud platform for today. And also we're going to be moving on to the elevating performance, which is the key aspect of what we're doing today. All right. So for a proper introduction, my name is Precious and I'm a software engineer. I currently work with AZ Global where we work on AI systems and all the types of automation softwares. You can find me on LinkedIn at the link on the screen or on Twitter, and I'll be much happy to connect with you and answer any questions that you may have. All right, let's jump right in. So let's discuss about the introduction to cloud and DigitalOcean. Okay, so you might ask, what exactly is the cloud and how does this uh, relate to what you do as a developer, as a programmer? How can you do better with your applications? We have different platforms and different strategies for deploying applications as soon as they are completed. So the cloud is a vast network of remote servers, and it enables all on-demand access to computer resources, data storage applications over the internet. You can consider the cloud like a tap or a faucet, depending on how you see it. And you only turn it on whenever you need it and turn it off when you don't need it. So it's a vast repository of resources available to you whenever you need it. It's on your beck and call. You can have a have a need for a particular service and you can get that right away from the cloud. So integration is easy, and then you have like a playground where you can plug and play so many tools and resources for the purpose of what you're building. And DigitalOcean happens to be a cloud provider among so many other big ones like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud Platform, GCP, Oracle, and so many others. Okay, but the most important aspect of cloud is not about being too overwhelmed by so many things. So AWS is really huge. It's probably the biggest in the industry. The next one could be Azure. Then the third one in the list is GCP. Okay, before others come about. Now, Google Cloud DigitalOcean in this case is handling a part of this whole cloud ecosystem, and they provide virtual machines. They provide services that are easy for you to get started with, and they make the whole process seamless and intuitive for a developer. Basically, I would say they worked around the developer experiences and made it better, and also very easy understandable. And so that's why we're going to be using DigitalOcean today. Also because we have a privilege to use a free service for a limited time for the purpose of this talk. Otherwise, we would have to get credits for everyone here to follow along. So in that case, let's move forward. Now we're going to be focusing on two problems here, and that is when we develop applications, when we produce services and solutions, there are two major problems that always come about. When we talk about SDLC, that is the software developer lifecycle. Uh, Software development lifecycle, we have the from the ideation all to the point where we do delivery, right? Now we also have the SRLC, that is the software release lifecycle. Now the software release lifecycle is basically the part that is the most important aspect of the application as soon as it's being released, because this is what will determine how well the target audiences engage with the applications and solutions. And what I like to tell people is that when you have, when you as a developer want to measure the level of your skill, if you want to create a yardstick for how proficient you are in a technology or in a skill that you're learning, I believe you should create services, create tools, no matter how small it might be, create a solution and put that out there in front of hundreds of people, thousands of people, and see how they engage with your application, see how their complaints, their challenges, and all of that will give you a feedback on how well you've really performed in building a solution as such. Okay, so but two common problems that always happen is deployment, right? Usually people have issues with deployment platforms. What platforms will I use? How can I auto scale? Load balancers, regions. All of those are considered when we're deploying an application, right? And that is why the cloud is a very, very, very paramount aspect of delivery and deployment, because the cloud gives you the leverage to deploy your applications closer to the locations of your target audiences. They provide edge servers all around the world, which can help you reduce the latency in request response lifecycle when a client is using your application, for example. And also, one other aspect is how do you monitor your application performance in real time? Applications will always have issues, challenges will occur, and they're inevitable. So how do we go about understanding the usage of our application in real time and how to monitor such problems and react when there is a chaos occurring? Okay, that is why we have the idea of application monitoring and performance based. Now, there's so many tools out there that can help us do this, but like I said, we're focusing mainly on the ALK stack and how to deploy that on the cloud, which will form a basis of so many other things you can do with your application. Because the most important thing is, as soon as you have the information from your application, you can use that as a basis to do other things. It informs your decisions, right? So the insight that you gain from the usage of your data from the application, the data your application produces, you can use that as an insight to produce other kind of information charts and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so solutions that are proposed for these two problems, I would say, is the DigitalOcean streamlined deployment. Now, there are several aspects of DigitalOcean. I've been using this for a while now, and but we'll be focusing on the very simpler part of DigitalOcean today. And before we get into the more technical side of this talk, I will be showing you exactly what we'll be doing and alternatives to this as well. Also, DigitalOcean as itself has its own monitoring tools, but you should understand that application monitoring can come at different levels. We can have system level login monitoring, we can have application level monitoring, we can even have like the entire platform, like the cloud platform monitoring. So depending on how deep you want to go in the application development lifecycle, you can go as over and beyond if you wanted to. Okay, so now, before I started this talk, I had created a repository, and you can get the source code on the link in on the screen right now. And this is, as like I said, would reduce the time it takes for us create to create the source the application from scratch. So we have basically a an API server, which I had created in Node.js. And another part of this API is it has how am I going to call it? It has a login system. And this login system is what produces the data that our application produces. Okay. So basically, every application will produce data, some sort of data errors, informational logs, or any kind of outputs at all, stream data even. But depending on what kind of data your application is producing, depends on how you would store that data. In this scenario, I have created a fictitious application, which basically is just going to store. It has an API of users, stores the user's API in-memory storage. Like I said, it's a very simple API server, and that basically uses the login system to serve data in case of an error or a situation where our application has to produce information which is useful for troubleshooting or debugging. Okay, so you can find the application, like I said, on the GitHub repository. The source code is there. You can download it and follow along. Otherwise, if you have a simple application, maybe Node.js, Python, Redux, Ruby, PHP, anything at all, you can follow along from here. Okay, so the next thing is we need to go on to setting up our DigitalOcean droplets. Okay, so a DigitalOcean droplet, like I said, is basically a VM, and a VM is a virtual machine. It's basically a system, a computing system that exists in the cloud somewhere in another location in a data center where you can perform tasks as you would on your local host. Okay. Now we need to set up the droplet, and for that, I would need to share my screen on my laptop, but let me see if I can do that. Um, okay, Suraj, I need your help here. I need to connect with my laptop so that it will be easier for me to share my screen from here. Suraj, are you there?
Yes.
I need to share my screen on my laptop. How do I do that? I can't find the share option here. All right, I've seen
Mm,
it.
is it
I've seen
still
it.
not?
I've seen it. Yeah. All right, please confirm you can see my screen.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So here we are on DigitalOcean platform. By the way, DigitalOcean is digitalocean.com. You can access that from any link at all, any browser of your choice. So you head on over to digitalocean.com, you create an account, and continue. DigitalOcean gives, I think, $100 credit for a start. So you could use that to test out the platform and play around the services that they have here. And it's a really good service. It has most of what you might require as a developer to get started with. Okay, so going back here, once you have a DigitalOcean account, you have to create a team. That team is where all your resources would exist. Okay, so once you're on the team page, there are a couple of things you can do here. We can start by creating a virtual machine where all our code will actually live. But before that, let me show you the source code that I have created for this talk so we can explore that a little bit before we go forward. Okay, so like I said, it's a very simple repository with just one API endpoint, and it's the endpoint that exposes the functionality, a CRUD functionality for creating, updating, deleting, and fetching users from an in-memory storage. But I'd like us to just brush through it real quickly. Sorry, I think my network is behind. Okay, so here's the repository of the code. Right here we have just an index.js where most of this is the entry point into the application, and we have basic setup here and configurations. So we could see here that this is a very simple application, not much considered here. A lot of assumptions are going to be made. It uses an env file to set up for port, and that's just basically it. So here we have the controllers. The controllers is just a handler for incoming requests. So these are route handlers for incoming requests. So I just created a bunch of uh, arrow functions and exported them, which could then be used uh, in a route module. So this is the route module, and currently we have just one for fetching the users by ID. We have one to create the users. We have one to update the users, and we have one to delete the users. Okay, this is the part I want us all to focus on, the services part. Now, this services part has a login module. This login module uses the Winston library package, as you may call it. Okay, so I called it the logger module. So this logger module basically exports functionalities from the Wisdom library, which creates the application logs that we are producing from our API server. Now, our API server is just a simple user API server. So this is all set up in a way that matches up with the functionality of what we're exposing. So these are the functionalities exposed here. So we just call either of these functions, which are exported from this module and can be used in other parts of our application. So here in the logs, we see a module, a directory for each log level. So when you're dealing with logging, you have different log levels. We have debug, error, info, silly variables, one, each having different advantage for the data your application is producing. Okay, so the index is the entry point. Here we have a Docker file. We could go ahead and use containerization technologies. Otherwise, we could go ahead and deploy this on a Linux server without containerization. The choice is yours, actually. But I left it there based on preferences. So please feel free to download this code, use it as you may. It can serve as a basis for creating your application with login uh, enabled, because this login also has log rotation, which is a good practice for an application where you have at the end of the day, the log zips automatically, compresses the file for the login, and then push that for the day. So let's see how this works. We head on over to Digital Ocean, and then I created a team. So this team is called Visuate. Now you need to, on the top bar here, you need to click on Create. We are going to create a droplet. A droplet is a server, basically a virtual machine in the cloud. So you click on droplets, and we're going to set up the droplet. Now I would advise that you choose a region close to where your target audiences are. So, but notwithstanding, I'm going to choose Sydney, Australia. Okay, that is the data center where this server is existing live in the server racks. Okay, here to choose an image, I want to point out that DigitalOcean has pre-built images, which are like operating systems for the servers. They are customized and optimized images for particular functionalities. So if you click on Marketplace Custom Images, you'll be able to search from a list of images that are not custom images. 1 second. You'll be able to search from a list of images that are created by the community or the DigitalOcean by themselves. So one of such is Node.js, right, which can be used for the purpose of our application, right? So you can just click Node.js, and then basically that we set up a Nginx server, right? Set up an Nginx server, install Node.js, npm, and PM2, which is a process manager for setting up Node.js applications. As soon as the server starts or reloads, the application reloads as well. So that is what a process manager does. We also have images for Elasticsearch, which is beautiful because we're going to be using this, but I want to show you how to set this up locally. Otherwise, if you're feeling in a hurry and you want to save some time, you could use either of these custom images to help your work faster. Okay, so but in this case, we're going to be doing it with a bare metal VM. So we're going to be choosing the Ubuntu OS, and we're going to be choosing the version 22.04 LTS 64. Now, in the application, the server type, right? We're going to choose basic. Also, there are different types of servers optimized for different use cases. General purpose, CPU optimized, memory optimized, storage optimized, depending on the use case. If you need a lot of compute power, you could go for CPU optimized. If you need a lot of memory usage, you can go for memory optimized. And if you have storage requirements, you could go for storage optimized. Someone is raising hand. Please, there will be a section for questions and answers. So please bear with me. I will just rush through this and then I'll answer all questions you have. Is that okay? Thank you. Okay, so on the basic tab, we're going to select the premium AMD. Now, we won't go into the intricacies of why all of these are here and different settings, but I believe most of us have used servers at some point, and then for that, we need at least an 8 GB capacity because Elasticsearch in itself will take up about 4 GB, and Kibana, which is also part of the ELK stack, will require some amount of space as well. Also, our application will need its own space, and also the server and some other packages we install will require some space. So 8 GB is enough capacity to run all of that. Okay, so we don't need additional storage, otherwise we could add a volume here. All of these can be changed later. Now, this is the access method for our server. We could go for SSH for extra security, but for the purpose of this simple talk session, I'll be using a password. Also, I'll show you how to actually access this server with a password, or you could use the provided console that DigitalOcean droplets provide out of the box. Okay, so I'm going to create a password. I can't let you guys see this. So I'm going to obscure that. Just follow the information here when creating your password. These are the requirements for the password policy, and then everything should be okay. Okay, so now the next thing is we need just one droplet. One droplet is fine. Okay, we're going to change this to Stiava dev. Okay, and then we can add a tag. Also, make sure that the project is under the theme for which you've created. Okay, you can see that the monthly charge for this server is $42, and the cost will be 0.063 cents per hour. Okay, so let's see how fast we can get all of this started before you get charged. Okay, so the next thing is to create a droplet. So you can create via the command line, but the console is good enough to get started. So just click on create droplet. Also, to make this whole process simple and easy, in less than 1 minute, the droplet will be created. I will upload this to the repository so everyone can access this. I created a list of command line utility commands that you can use to install Docker, Node, Elasticsearch, Kibana, FluentBit, and some configuration options that are necessary for this particular talk. So I will share this as well with the community so you can all access this and make it simpler for you. Now, don't think I got this out of the thing here. All of this information are available on the documentations for each of these services, tools and services. So you could literally go to the documentation and find all of this information. I just copied it out and made it easy for everyone to use eventually. And during the course of this session, I'm going to be using this uh, particular document as well to set up. Okay, so our droplet has been created. This is the public IP address. This is a IP4 version of the IP address system. You can see the information when we click on the droplet card. So we see the image is a Bond 22204X, the CPU size, the memory size, the region, IPv4, IPv6, and all of that. Now, automatically, what happens here is droplet is added to a default VPC. A VPC is a virtual private cloud, which is kind of like a section of the entire cloud system that your applications can connect via a private IP address, which is this IP address here. So this is a subnet that basically subnet is a subgroup of an entire network where a couple of nodes can connect through the internal network. And in that, we would need a network address translator. But those are more complex topics for bigger providers like AWS, Azure, and GCP. Okay, so click on the card, and when we are inside here, we can see information about usage, CPU usage, metrics, and all of that. Okay, so we have the console. You click on this console, we can automatically connect to our droplet from within the DigitalOcean platform. So you see it's connecting to the droplet, and then we will be able to access the server. So this is our server. We just created the server. Now we can do it this way, or we can actually use a Linux terminal to access this using SSH if you are set up. Now, if you're on an operating system like Windows, you would either use a tool like Putty. Putty is a resource that you could use for connecting to remote servers. There is also a very useful one, which is not entirely terminal based, but it's UI based. So if you have a certain task you need to perform, and then it's a pain using Nano or Vim or any of those terminal editors, you could use a tool like Ray Drive. Okay, Ray Drive can actually help you to get a file system from a remote server onto your local host. So it's termed NAS, it's network as a drives concept. Now that we have this here, we're going to first start by installing a few things. And I think we need to first grab our application from the repository and get that working. Okay, so we have this repository, like I said from earlier, we can get the information right from this repository by cloning it onto your local host and then follow along. Otherwise, you could use any available API to you. Okay, so the first thing I need to check is if Git is actually installed on this server. And yes, it is. So we're going to, okay, actually, let's first install Node.js. Okay, so we are going to be using NVM. NVM is short for Node Version Manager. We're going to be using NVM to install um, Node.js and packages like npm. Okay, so all of that is done. You would see I left comments in this simple notepad, and this will help you understand what's going on in each step. The API created uses version 16 Node.js, so it's required that you actually know the version of Node.js your application is using if you are not following along with the source code from the repository I created earlier. Okay, so basically that step installs the Node version 16, and this step says use the Node version 16 as the default Node installation. So now if we check the version of our node, we see version 16, that's good. Now npm as well has been installed automatically. Now we need to install pm2, which is going to be used for process management for our Node.js application. Okay, so npm install global, that is the flag G dash G or hyphen G, pm2. So we are basically pulling this package from the npm repository and then installing it globally on the system. So all things done properly, everything should be showing as it is currently on the screen. Okay, so now we're going to actually clone the repository where this code, source code is existing, and we're going to first demonstrate how that works, and we go from there to install the ALK stack. Right, so if we, right, correct, we have this Java dev, and then we can just cd into that and clear the screen a little bit. We can show what is inside here, and see we have all of this as we did on our repository. Okay, so to deploy this, we need to first install a server operating system, and we're going to be using Nginx because we're going to utilize the reverse proxy that Nginx provides to serve our application to the public. Okay, currently I want to show you something. If we head on over to our DigitalOcean server, we are going to copy this IP address, correct? The no, not this one. 1 second. Yeah, this is address we're copying. We're copying the IPv4 address, and we go to an empty tab, and then we're going to try to load this and see what happens. And then you should see currently it says connection refused because this server is alive, yes, correct, but there is no operating system that receives or handles incoming requests to the server right now. And that's why we need an operating system such as Apache or Nginx. So in this case, we're going to be downloading Nginx. Okay, so we're going to check the status of the server to ensure that we don't have Nginx installed already. And if we do, we should see a green setup. Currently, there is no service such as Nginx. So to install Nginx, it's simple. You could as well go to the file I've created here and locate the configuration of Nginx. Okay, currently, I don't think it's fine. So you could just come here and do sudo apt get update and sudo apt get install Nginx. This should update the package index repository on your uh, Ubuntu server, and will also create the installation for Nginx. So 1 second, I made a typo here. It should be apt-get, not dash update. Okay, so we're going to wait for a few minutes for this to grab the package information, the latest package information from the repository, and then basically update that. So afterwards, it's going to automatically start installation of Nginx as well. Nginx is an operating, it's a server operating system. that we'll use for the installation of our uh, application. So if we run the same command again, we need to check the status of Nginx. Right now, it should be working. Okay. Now, if we head on over to the URL, already you can see that there is the default Nginx welcome page that says "Welcome to Nginx." Correct. Now, the next thing we need to do is Nginx as a configuration. So in order to use Nginx as a reverse proxy, we need to edit the configuration that Nginx provides out of the box. Okay, so for that, we are in our application directory. Remember, this is where we are, PWD, this is where we are, our application directory. Now we can actually do something here. We need to first install the packages for our application. So we run npm install. So all of the packages that are present in the package.json file, we will install that. It's not a lot. So that's why the process was so simple. So we have just .env express helmet morgan node 1 Winston and Winston daily rotate file, which is what we use for log rotation. Okay, so now that we have installed our application, we need to start the application on the intended port. So we need to do pm2 start index and the name, which is the flag. Okay, so we have Stiava dev. So basically, we say PM2 start. Start is to initiate the application, and the entry file is what we pass as an argument. Then we have the flag dash n, which basically says the name to call this particular process. Okay, so when we start that, automatically PM2 initiates that and then gives us uh, the information about the command we just ran. Now we're going to run pm2 save to save this into the process such that when this server restarts, we will have our application restart as well. Okay, so that is all we need to do to get this all working. If we were going to test if our application is working, yes or no, we can quickly send a call request to the local host and figure out if our application is actually running. And yes, our application is running because we get a message, and that is perfect. So now we need to edit our Nginx configurations, and that is present in the etc directory slash Nginx. I've already created the configurations that you are going to use, so you can get that from the file that I will be providing. So this is where the Nginx default configuration is stored, and then we can edit this file. For simplicity, we're just going to take out the location and then add our own, okay? So basically, we're going to copy this. We're just going to copy all of this, right? And then you're going to paste that into the Nginx configuration. But before that, we need to change this server name to localhost, okay? And then we should take out this entire block here. So this is a configuration block, or we like to call it a server block. It's a unit of configuration for Nginx. Nginx uses this as its reverse proxy settings. Okay, so once you have that information there, you press a combination of Control X and then Y to save the file, and then you press Enter to lock it in. Before we go on, we need to check the configuration of Nginx to make sure everything is particularly okay. So we run a command sudo nginx -t. Basically, it says successful, everything is perfect. So now what we need to do is we need to restart Nginx. Okay, we need to restart Nginx, and we can check the URL and ensure that our application is running as expected. So if we refresh right now, correct, we see our application is running, and this is because we have configured Nginx as a reverse proxy to be used for our application. Now, like I said, this application is a simple application and it has just one simple API that exposes. So it's the user's API. So, like I said, it uses an in-memory storage. And when we go to slash API slash users, we should get a bunch of users on the screen, right? And then we can also get a user by its ID, and then we can fetch a single user by its ID. We can delete a user and we can also update a user. We cannot do all of that from within this browser environment because it's not optimized for API testing. We could use a tool like Postman, but you get the idea. This application is working as expected. So without wasting much time, let us go and show you how this login works. Okay. So now here in the application, we're going to check we're going to sit into the logs. Okay. This is where our logs are going to be stored. So remember, we have different log levels. Now we're going to sit into the info log level. Currently, we have two files here. So 2024 and 2023. When I created this repository, I sent the repository to GitHub on 20 by 2023. So that's why you're seeing two files there. Now, I'm going to quickly show you the information in 2024, and then currently we shouldn't have anything, right? But if we should go here and look for a resource, an entity without that is not existing on this server, we should get an error message or an informational message saying user not found. Okay, so when we go back here to our console and then we search that, we see we have a log says user not found. So now this log has been configured with our login system that you can find in the source code. So you could explore that on your own and try to understand. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I will be glad to help you to understand it. Okay, but we already went through this code, so let us go forward from here. Now you understand that this application works and our login as well works. Now this login is what we require to set up our application performance monitoring. Okay. Now the next thing we need to install is we need to go ahead and install the ELK stack. Okay. So now the first thing is Elasticsearch is a you can consider it a database. Okay. It indexes search, which is a very powerful tool that can be used by simple applications and even larger applications use Elasticsearch. Now, Elastic is a body, it's a suite of software tools such as Kibana, Logstash, Bits, Filebits, even Elastic itself, which is the index tool we use for storage. So it's going to be used as a central login system for our application performance monitoring. Now, the data we collect using Elasticsearch can be presented and viewed graphically using Kibana, which is a tool, a visualization tool that is also provided from the ELK stack. However, FluentBit is an integrator or a data processor and logger, so that will be used as an intermediary between our application and Elasticsearch. So that will collect information, that's the logs our application is producing, and feed that into Elasticsearch, which will be indexed, and then we can see that visually from Kibana. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so before we install Elasticsearch, it requires Java, right? And then we're going to be installing the Java environment. So we copied the command from the file, and then we're going to run that and install Java. So we don't have any issue. Remember, this was a very, very bare server, so we have to install everything. We don't have all the optimized benefits that a customized image from DigitalOcean would provide us. Okay, so we're going to wait for this to complete the installation, and then we will go ahead and install Elasticsearch. Okay, so this is the command we would use to install the GPG key for Elasticsearch. Right, like I said, all of this information is available on their website, the documentation. So you can get that there, but I just made it easier for you. So I built it out in here. Okay, so here also, as usual, you will see a comment that says, or that explains basically what we are doing at each step. Okay, so we are trying to install Elasticsearch now. So we'll update the package repository again, and then we install Elasticsearch. and we're going to test if it's working. And also, the fun part is where we get to configure Elasticsearch to work with us. But like I said, a lot of assumptions will be made in this particular session because of time. So we're going to be disabling some of the security configurations that comes default with Elasticsearch in order to have a seamless setup, and then so everyone can see how this works eventually. So we're going to wait for Elasticsearch to finish setting up. Correct. In a more production optimized environment, we need this information, all of the security or configuration here, especially this part that tells you the generated password for Elastic Built-in Super User. So we need this, but because of the setup we're going to be doing, just to make sure everything is simple and easy for everyone to understand, I will be disabling some of the security measures that are given by Elasticsearch, okay? Otherwise, we would have need all the information here later when we're configuring Kibana. Okay, so with that out of the way, the next step here is to start Elasticsearch. So we're going to start Elasticsearch now, and that might take a few seconds. Okay, so once that is started, we're going to have to check the status of Elasticsearch, see if it's working. And then also in the documentation, I left a link to the docs. It's a reference where you can see all the information that I have used here. So it's easy for you to just check and get that information. Okay, still waiting for Elasticsearch to complete a setup, and it is started. So we are going to page this and check the status. And yes, Elasticsearch is perfectly working. And for you to know that is actually working, we need to send a call request to the default Elasticsearch URL. Elastic uses the default port of 9200. So I believe if we send a GET request, that should be working. 1 second. Let me see if I go back here. I think. Mm, 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 mm. Okay, so we need to disable some of the configurations that come with Elasticsearch to enable this to work as intended. So I'm going to go to Nano, EDC, Elasticsearch. Yeah, so this is where the configuration file for Elasticsearch is located, and then we use Nano to edit that. So if we go here to cluster name, you can choose to change the cluster name. Otherwise, you can just go ahead with what you have. In this case, I will just pass through. The configurations that we are focusing on is uh, here in the network host. Okay, so we need to change the network host configuration because by default, Elasticsearch is configured to run on the local host. So we change it to a wildcard. And like I said, we'll be disabling some of the default configurations with Elasticsearch. So we use a wildcard IP address. This basically means any host in any networking system. We also need to change, we also need to enable the port. So we will take out the comment and going down here, we need to change a few more things. Okay, here are the security configurations that I told you we would need. So expert security is enabled. So we need to unfortunately disable all of this, although this is not advised in a production environment, but due to the time limit we have to disable some of this. Otherwise, it will take us a lot more time to set up. One thing I want you to add here is verification mode. Set that to none. Also, please, this video is recorded. This session is recorded, so you wouldn't have much problem trying to access the information. So if you need the recorded version, you can always go back to get that, and that should .d in the configurations. Otherwise, I can get the configurations and put it out on the repository so everyone can access that as well as a basis for their own configurations. Okay, now that we're done, again, a combination of Control X, we press the Y key and then we press Enter. And then now we need to restart the Elasticsearch service. So we just do a combination of sudo systemctl, and then we're going to say restart Elasticsearch. Okay, so we're going to wait for that to happen. Mm, 1 second. Okay, so Elasticsearch is working as expected. Checking the status. It's failed actually. So something is wrong. And 1 second. Let me see that again. Okay, so we must have tampered with something. Let's see the configuration again. There may be something I omitted. Okay. Network host. Uh, uh, uh. Let me see that. Okay. I don't see any reason why this should be failing. Transport host. Okay, 1 second. I'm gonna change this to local host real quickly. And let's see if that solves the problem. Okay. I'll restart Elasticsearch one more time. Just wait a little bit. So let's check the status one more time. It's failing still. Okay, so that's a little bit weird. It's not supposed to be failing. Sorry guys, 1 second. I need to check why Elasticsearch is failing. There are no journal entries. Hmm. I hope this is not a caching issue. Right, host. This is actually supposed to be. Port is 2200. I'll disable all the configurations. Wondering. Oh, I think I have. I see an error here. So it is verification. I think I had a typo here. Verification mode. Okay. I hope that might be the problem. I'm gonna restart this and see if that actually fixes the problem. Okay. 1 second, guys. Sorry for the delay. Okay, let's check the status of Elasticsearch one more time. And perfect. Yeah, that is working. I'm sorry, guys. That was a typo from my end. Verification. I omitted the A in the verification spelling. I'm sorry for the delay. Okay, now let's move on to installing Kibana. Most of the steps required to install Kibana, we've already performed the same step during the installation for Elasticsearch. So we are going to just update the package index repository and install Kibana at the same time. Okay, so Kibana is going to be installed in a few minutes. And that's because they use the same GPG key and repository because they're in the same stack. So we're going to, before we start Kibana, actually, we're going to edit the configuration file. So then the next thing will be to install FluentBeat, edit the configuration, and then we're good to go. Okay, guys, I hope you're still in here. It's been a very technical session. I understand this might be a whole lot for most people and might be overwhelming, but this is how it is in the real world. And this setup is usually performed by the DevOps guy in an IT company. So don't worry if you're a developer, a front end developer, a back end developer. This is not your aspect, but if you have the knowledge of this, it will go a long way in helping you understand how an application works in the real world, how central login systems operate, and all that. So the same way we edited the configuration of Elasticsearch, we're going to be doing the same for Kibana. So Kibana is conf, I think. No, it's YML. Okay, so we edit the configuration for Kibana. There's not a lot we need to do here, but the server port is 5601 by default for Kibana. We need to change this from localhost to the wildcard as well. And I think that might be all we have to do here. Although we can actually, if we wanted to use Kibana as a reverse proxy, we would have to change this configuration here. But since I'm not going to be using that, I will just omit this. Okay, so we can put the public base URL. I'll show you in the Kibana interface where this will be required, but we can omit that because it's not a necessity. We can change the server name to maybe stiava.dev, but uh, in this, we don't need that. Also, we don't need the security enabled, so we leave that commented. Like I said, we are doing this because of ease and then simplicity. So we need to change this from localhost to the wildcard as well, because this is this configuration we have in our Elasticsearch. So the configuration has to match, otherwise we'll be having a lot of errors, guys. So this is the default password for Kibana, and you would use this in a production environment to access your Kibana system. But because I already disabled that in relation to what is required by Elasticsearch, we would not be requiring any of that. So guys, this is probably the simplest way to get this whole thing set up. Otherwise, we would go and have to do all this configuration one by one. So, and that might be a bit time consuming and very difficult for some people to understand. So I kept it very simple. And the only thing you just have to disable the security measures and then you're good to go. Okay, so a combination of Control X or Command X on Mac OS, and then we press the enter. And then now we can start Kibana, so we can copy the start Kibana service, and then we can do that. Kibana is relatively faster compared to Elasticsearch. We're going to enable the Kibana system by creating a systemd configuration. Now, this will enable Kibana to start as soon as the VM reloads. Okay, so we need to check the status of Kibana, and Kibana is running as expected. Okay, so we need to install, before we install FluentBeat, guys, I want to show you Elasticsearch is already working. So if you go to port 9200, you can see already, it says tiava.dev. Um, it says the cluster name, it says the cluster UUID, the versions, and a tagline. This is the default for Elasticsearch. Elasticsearch is an API, provides an API you can use for powerful index searching, but we're not going to be going into all of that detail here. Sorry, guys. Just wanted to show you how this can be used and set up on a VM, which will serve as a basis for your work as a developer. So this will enable you to grab your application data and then use that for whatever it is you want to do. We have other tools like Sentry, which basically is a application error performance monitoring system. So basically, Sentry focuses on the application error logs, right? And then uses that to provide insightful actions for you to take based on application errors in real time. Say, for instance, the reason why we're doing this, one very important reason why we're doing this is if your application breaks, which it will, because definitely your users will test your application, north, west, south, and east, and then they will break it. And when it breaks, how do you know a series of steps that was occurring before the application eventually broke, right? So this is why you need application performance monitoring, errors, login, and all sort of login to ensure that you can go in detail to the application and document your process such that if the same issue occurs, you have a structured framework for solving the same problem. So Insights with AI is enabled on Sentry. So it uses the GPT-4, I think, to create insightful solutions for you when your application encounters error. But unfortunately, guys, we will not be going into the details of setting up Sentry in this particular talk session. Maybe we might have another opportunity in the future to have a talk where we have Sentry and how to integrate that into your system. So, guys, we need to check Kibana. So the default port for Kibana is 5601. This will show us the homepage for the Kibana visualization system. And the reason why we're directed to the homepage instantly is because we've disabled security, and then we're not going to be bothered by all of that nitty gritty. Otherwise, we'd have to create an Elastic token, then we have to create a password, and all of that will have to be considered either manually or you can configure it automatically with the Kibana interface. But we're just going to wait for Kibana to load up, and then I'm going to show you guys. Currently, there is nothing on the Kibana interface. Elasticsearch is not receiving any data, and it's not indexing their data because currently there is no integrator. Now, if you go to the Elasticsearch documentation, you're going to find a series, you're going to find a lot of integrations that you can use. You can get data source from AWS S3 data objects. You can get your input sources from applications, from stream inputs, video streams. You can get applications from log files, like the strategy we're using in this application we created. You can get inputs from Slacks, channels, Discord, servers. You can get a lot of integrations created automatically. There are frameworks for this, and they have applications that seamlessly integrate with Elasticsearch that helps you pull up your data from the source and aggregate that onto Elasticsearch for indexing, which you can then use with Kibana in order to visualize those data, see the information from that, and perform all sort of um, metrics or application monitoring as you may see fit for the purpose of your application. Okay, so this is one of the main reasons why you need to set up application login, application performance monitoring, and application tracing, which is a very important aspect because sometimes people send all sort of requests to your endpoints, and then you need to trace that HTTP request and log that as well to your Sentry. Sentry helps you do that seamlessly. So tracing, logging, and performance monitoring are very important aspects when delivering applications that are production level compliant and that are going to provide a lot of usage to a very wide audience, like a global scale. This is what big companies like Facebook, Uber, Spotify. These are the strategies they use in delivering applications. And when issues occur, and they say things like, our teams are working on the issues. How do you think they do that? They go to their central login systems, they start from there, see what errors occurred, see the application logs, And if you don't have a framework like this set up, then it's impossible for you to start troubleshooting because, yes, your application might have a login system, but a login system that is not as complex or powerful as Elasticsearch might provide you little to no leverage at all. So you would not be able to do much. Do you understand that? So that is why we need a tool such as the ELK stack, and that provides all the tools that are necessary for us to create a central login system for an application deployment and delivery. Okay, so Kibana has loaded up and we're going to say explore on my own. Like I said, there are so many integrations you can add, but we're going to explore on our own because we're going to be configuring FluentBit ourselves. Okay, guys, let's go. So we click on explore my own, and then you can see a lot of tools that you can use here. Okay, don't get overwhelmed by this interface. It's fine. We have observability, we have analytics, we have security. Okay, analytics is what we're going to be focusing on here. This is where the visualization tool is. We can use this to present our data from Elasticsearch, and we can as well customize the dashboard as ever you like. Okay, there are hundreds of tools like Datadog, Chef. We have log, we have Paper Trail, we have Log Paper. We have so many login systems, but I chose to use Elasticsearch in this particular session. Now, if we go all the way down here, you click on Management, and then when you click on Management, you see a new subset of menu here. Now, if you go to Index Management, which is basically how Elasticsearch manages its indexes, you're going to notice that there is nothing currently on this. As soon as the page loads, you notice there is nothing on the index currently because Elasticsearch is not receiving information from any data source. Okay, and this is why we need FluentBit. Okay, FluentBit is a log aggregator. All right, so it's now time for us to set up FluentBit. So we're going to go back to our terminal, and then we could as well install FluentBit with a lot of by first adding the GPG key, blah blah blah. But very cool stuff I found is the one line installation script that is provided by FluentBit. So if you go to the FluentBit documentation, which I provided here, okay, which I provided here for Ubuntu, you're going to see there is a single line installation script, which I find very useful because of our time in this session. So I'm going to utilize that. So we go back here and then we are going to use the single line installation script to install FluentBit. And then FluentBit is going to be installed. And as soon as that is installed, we need to configure FluentBit before we start the service. Okay. Now this might take a few minutes, but in this documentation I had provided, you need to copy this configuration. Now, in this configuration, we're using a plugin. Now, the concept of plugins are like, I'm going to put it, integrations as well that FluentBit uses to get data. The tail plugin is basically a file stream watcher. It basically watches a directory for log changes, like file changes, basically. And then when there is a change in a particular file, it will process that and then push that based on the configuration you've given it to the Elasticsearch in this case, which is the output. So you see we have Elasticsearch. This is the match glob pattern. Now we have the host, which is the wildcard. Remember, this is the port where Elasticsearch is running. The index we have used is FluentBit, the log stash format, suppress type name. This is to avoid an error, which is common with this plugin. So all of this information you can find in the documentation and read up on your own, guys. So the parser system, which is Docker, the tag, FluentBit. So now, as soon as you've copied all of this, you should go and we need to edit the FluentBit configuration. Okay, so we go to the same place, AC FluentBit, and then we'll do FluentBit configuration, short for CONF. Okay, conf. All right, so now here we have a lot of configurations you can do as usual: log level, daemon, flush, parser files, blah blah blah. Now, like I said, we're going to keep things very simple, okay? And I've created most of what you require. So we're going to take out this. This is basically using the CPU uh, plugin for watching CPU file changes, but this is basically not what we wanted to do. We want to configure this and link this up with our Elasticsearch and such that we can get this from Kibana. So we just paste the code that you get from the file, which I'll provide to everyone, of course. Now we need to do a combination of Control X or Command X, Y, Enter. Now we will have to start the Fluent bit service. So for that, we copy the code I've provided, and then the command we run. This has already started Fluent bit, and then we will enable Fluent bit, and then once more we need to check to see all is well with Fluent bit. Okay, perfect. Everything is working as expected. But guys, you need to notice something here. This is the path to where our application logs are getting produced. Okay. Now this is if we can see here, I'm gonna clear everything. If you can see here, okay, we have two major directories here that are not hidden directories. Okay. So if we see the into Java devs, okay, which is the code source code from the application we created, we'll see that we have a directory called logs. Sorry, excuse me. We have a directory called logs, and if we should print that, you see these are the information in the logs directory, and this information is the directory where we need Java dev, the Fluent bit. Sorry, we need the Fluent bits to watch the files inside this directory. Okay, so we could do something like this, and then this is going to show us all the files in this directory. Okay, right. Anyways, so we need to also do PWD to show you guys this is the root, and this is basically the path to where our application is installed. Yours could be anywhere, so all you need to do is just PWD, get the current working directory, print working directory, that's short for PWD. Also, if you don't know some Linux commands, it will be a great time to go learn some simple basic Linux commands that I've been using throughout this whole session, like using it for optimization so that we can get all the details done simple. Okay, so this is how we set up the Fluent bit configuration. We did a PWD, and then inside that Java Devs application folder, we have logs, and inside the logs, we say everything. This is a pattern that says, is a regular expression pattern that says everything, and this is saying everything inside everything. Okay, so this is a second level directory. This is saying the directory is inside this directory. So it takes the depth from the preceding parent directory. All right, so that is set up perfectly. And then if we should go back to our Kibana interface, if we refresh this, currently we should see, I believe we should see an index that's been created based on that configuration that we have. Okay. And okay, if we don't have that, we just need to create a we need to send we need to send an 1 second, guys. I need to copy this. We need to send a request from our API such that our API will log something, and that will trigger Fluent Bits to watch for those file changes in our configuration, and then we should be able to see that appear here in the Kibana interface automatically. Okay, now, okay, we're gonna have to look for a user that does not exist. This is when our application produces an error or a useful message like user not found. Okay, so if we if we reload indices, automatically we already have log stash, which is what we use in our configuration. If you remember, right, the log stash format on. Okay, now this health the health of this cluster node is currently saying yellow. Okay, as soon as it changes green, we have the health status of the server or the cluster in this case. Okay, so now what you need to do is, in order to view this data from Kibana interface that we're getting from the Elasticsearch. Okay, we need to create what we call a data view. Okay, so now we create a data view by going here under Kibana. Okay, and then we click on create data view. Okay, we'll call this let's call this Tiava dev. Okay, and this is the format that we're going to be matching. Okay, now it says we have one index pattern matched. Okay, this index pattern is the index we are getting from Elasticsearch. Remember, Elasticsearch is like a database, so this is like an index from the database. So we save data view to Kibana, and then this data view will be what will uh, serve as a framework for visualizing our input. Now you can see that this is actually working. This is a test, and then you can see these are the columns in the headers. So timestamp, ID, index, core, source, log keyword. These are the tables that we're going to be using in our visualization tool. You can edit this in the schema type. You can change the field types. You can add field. You can do all sort of things here, guys. You can edit this. You can delete this. You can create another configuration for maybe another app and that is on your server, and then use that as well to configure your data view. I hope that is very understandable. Now we click on the menu icon, and then we go to analytics, sorry, and then we click on discover. So on the discover panel, we should see um, the charts that we can use. Okay, now you can customize your chart. Like I said, you can customize how this appears. This whole thing can be customized however you see. You can have dashboards for your basic requirement. Now if you see on this top left right here, you see that we have a data view currently set to Stiava Dev, which is the only data view we have, right? Now that data view will inform the charts and the table we're going to be seeing here. So currently it's searching and looking for data as it's being produced by application. Remember, we've only sent one hit. That's we found a user that is with an ID of 4 on our API. It does not exist. So our application produces an information that says user not found. So in a case where this is an error, right, we would go to Kibana and see, okay, our application has one hit so far, and then what is the problem? We click on here, and then we can go full screen here, and then you click on this expand icon right here, and then from there we can see a tabular view or a JSON view of the log that our application has produced. So here we can see that information says user not found. This is the log information. You can see the date is 2024-01-16. Today is 16th of 2024, January, and the timestamp is this in this ISO format. Okay, so this is the log that our application just produced. If we search for index 5 and our application produces another log, right, automatically saying user not found, we should have another hit here. Okay, so this refreshes every 15 minutes. Okay, you can change that here however you want, but we can do that automatically. Now you see we have two hits. Okay, guys, we have two hits. So the first, the most recent hit will be on top, which is this one. So it says user not found. Same thing. Although I've created a simple error route as well. Okay, I created a simple error route as well. I'm going to show you guys how that is here. So currently we have logs, right? So we're going to cd into logs, and we're going to print out everything in logs, and then everything in logs. Now if we show the files that are in the error logs, you see that we have error log 2024. Okay, so I'm going to cd into errors. We're going to print that out, and then we're going to do cat, which is a terminal utility for printing a particular file. 2024. Currently, we don't have anything here, guys. But if we head on over to our application and hit this endpoint /error, this should produce an error in our application. So, for example, you could see this says intentional error. Okay, so we can have a real a real world scenario where our application produces an error due to some network lag, or maybe some missing information in the source code, something produces an error, okay? And then our application captures that error and then logs that, okay, into our system. Now, when we catch, we should see an error. Okay, so this error says produces the log trace, yeah, the error trace, and then this is the error message. Now, if we go back to our Kibana, we should see the same. Okay, we should see the same. Now we should see the same, and when we refresh, we should have the amount of hits, and that's because of the amount of Kibana and Elasticsearch is indexing this as multiple. So basically, we will see the first one here, and then you can see it says this is the layer under request blah 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 error trace here. So I don't know why this is happening, but this is this can be configured, yes, but this is how Elasticsearch is indexing the errors, and because each error is on a line, so it's assumed to be multiple errors occurring at the same time. Otherwise, we could choose to just put a message here if we know the type of error that occurred. So maybe a network error call will just say error, intentional network error, and then we can leave out the traces, okay? So this will reduce the amount of heat that our application is getting, also to optimize our space and storage. Okay, so if we find the let me see, I think the one that says uh error intentional error. So we're gonna have to find that one. Yeah, I think it's this one. Uh, okay, I don't see it, but you should otherwise see intentional error somewhere in the logs. Okay, I don't know. It's here somewhere. Uh, okay, guys. Anyways, you get the idea. I think that should be logged at first. I don't know. Okay, this is aha. Here is the log. So basically, it goes top to bottom. So all the way from here to this point. So it goes top to bottom. So that is on the timestamp 13:29:55. Okay, so this is the log. So it goes top to bottom, it goes all the way up. So this is the main error we're looking for here. So guys, you can see a scenario where, let's say, hundreds of errors occurred over the weekend on your application. You deployed an application, your project manager gives you a task, and you deploy a new application, and then there is a problem over the weekend, and then hundreds of errors occurred. How do you track back and see, okay, what error occurred on this particular date, what happened, the exact timestamp, what are the logs, what is the version of the system? Guys, you can get information about the particular system, the operating system, the user is using the platform where they occurred, and all of this can be configured with either Sentry or Elasticsearch. So this is a very powerful tool in terms of central logging, application performance, and the monitoring of your application. And this alone can be, for example, a role like site reliability engineer, SRE. This is some of the things they do. And also DevOps guys, they do this a lot. So we have all of these integrated with tools like Jenkins for CI/CD pipelines, and then so many other tools that you can integrate, like Prometheus for monitoring as well. So this Elasticsearch gives you a simpler stack out of the box that you can use for error monitoring and your application performance monitoring. So these are the field statistics. There's so many other fields here and things that you can do here. Okay, you can search by the column ID, or you can create a filter and then put all your configurations, and maybe you want to search for all the payment payment failed errors that occurred in your application over the weekend. You can set up a filter. You can put in the row, the keywords, the operator. All of those things can be configured. You also have like conditional operators that you can use here for customizing the kind of results that are provided by your Kibana interface. Also, you can customize this interface as you might like to see. You can hide a chart. You can show charts. You can search the field. You can also create rotation for the log output. So we want to refresh maybe every 60 seconds or that's every 1 minute in this case. You can reduce the time. So you can do all sort of configurations here, guys. And then this will inform you on the decisions to take. So your application is running, and then you are here monitoring the performance of your application using the logs as a entry point into discovering what situation has occurred and how to solve that situation on in real time. So you can use this information. It will inform the directions of the actions you need to take when a call comes from your project manager and says, "Hi, there is an error, there's a bug in the system. We need to figure this out." So these are tools that you can integrate to save a lot of time in your company. And I believe these skills can help you as a person to grow, and it's we add to the value you can provide to a company, right? The value you can provide to a company and to yourself as well, because having this kind of skills will do you a lot of good and a lot of time saving in terms of production environments and real-time error monitoring. Now, guys, like I said, there's so many tools out there that we can use in terms of preferences. Okay, so you could use Datadog, you can use Log Paper, you can use Paper Trail. In fact, DigitalOcean provides its own infrastructure monitoring. This is not a commercial, but I'm just showing you based on the fact that I used DigitalOcean at some point, and it's really a really good tool. So you can explore their monitoring platforms for your. It provides dashboard. All of these things creates it out of the box. Also, understand this, guys. You can create an entire monitoring system from the scratch if you wanted to, but all these kind of resources like Elasticsearch and the ones provided by DigitalOcean saves you a lot of time. Back in the days, when I was using the LAMP stack, I found myself writing custom dashboards for system metrics and usage for PHP. And when I discovered, over time there was a lot of innovation. So these tools makes our lives easier in terms of what we have to do. So remember, you need to gain mastery in one particular language, one framework, and then you need to gain experience in a lot more other. Okay, so don't think as a developer or as a programmer, you need to know everything. You don't need to know everything, guys. You just need to know how to understand the usage of a particular tool. And it wouldn't take you a lot of time because remember, the number one thing in technology is problem solving. Every tool, every service, every technology solves a particular problem. So you have to put that in your mind and ensure that whatever you're doing, the purpose is to solve problem. So when you're using AIs, when you're using any kind of productivity tool, it's not because you are lazy or you can't do them, but because it saves you time. Optimization is very important, especially depending on the urgency of what you have to do. Okay, guys. So you can see graph on disk usage, CPU usage, bandwidth, memory. This is all tracing, and then you can export all of this in depth. Okay, so real time, uptime, latency alert. We can also integrate systems like Uptime Kuma, which is also like a real time alert that is provided by Uptime Kuma. Okay, Uptime Kuma is a service that we can use to provide real time. We can provide real time alerts with Uptime Kuma. We also have Uptime Robot. These are all services that are usable, on in the aspect of DevOps, site reliability engineering, and so many things that you can do in the course of your application monitoring and performance. So I think Uptime Kuma, I can't find it. Anyways, guys, you get the idea. We can check articles like this on DigitalOcean. Like you see how the integration of paper trail that you can use to automatically get logs from your droplets and forward them to a particular source, maybe the ELK or Kubernetes repository on a custom platform like AWS where you have set up. Maybe you don't want to use Elasticsearch. You can have your own custom repository set up where you gather all your log details, and then you have a custom metrics platform that you can use to dive into those data and see what you have to do. Otherwise, I believe time will be saved if you utilize tools like Elasticsearch. This already has customizations and years of thought has gone into building these softwares and tools that help you create a seamless application that can be deployed on the cloud, available globally, and also accessible, also easily maintainable, and configuration is as swift as possible. So, guys, this is the very important thing that we need to learn, and this has been the whole purpose of this talk. And I really hope you've enjoyed every single bit of it. I once again apologize for the delay at the start, and thank you all so much. Okay, it's time for questions and answers. I'm opening the floor for questions and answers, guys. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat, and I'm going to start answering them now. Okay, right. Someone was raising up their hand. Please, you can ask your question. I don't know the name. It's, pardon me, I can't pronounce the name.
Thank you, Precious, for the session. There is no more question coming up, but let's give it 2 minutes and see if there is any questions. And I hope you guys were able to learn something new today and gain something from spending time here in the session. And we'll also be sharing the recording, and there is a certificate of participation since you guys are staying till the end, and you can receive it by filling out this form. So I have shared the form, and you can also share it on LinkedIn and tag us over there as well. Cool. If there is any question, this is your time to ask, as Precious is already here. Precious, there is a question in the chat box.
Oh, okay, yeah, I can see that. Thank you for your question, Abdul. Your question says, a century based on open telemetry. Actually, telemetry is a concept used for anonymously getting data from a particular software or tool usage. So, yes, it could be part of the underground implementation of Sentry, but I'm not entirely sure. But Sentry uses a lot more than just telemetry. It uses a combination of software suites, which helps it to gain access to the application at the system level. Because sometimes, especially when it comes to tracing, Sentry needs elevated access to your system. So all of that would be considered telemetry, yes, because some of these are anonymous. Once you set it up once, the rest is handled by Sentry automatically, yes. So I think telemetry is also is a part of what Sentry use as their implementation. Thank you for the question, Abdul. I hope that answers your question, yeah? All right, thank you. Suraj, there is a question. Is there free certificates after this webinar? Okay, you reply that. Okay, any more questions, guys? Also, guys, I would like you to go ahead to your LinkedIn, your Twitter, Facebook, and tag Stiava Dev and share your thoughts about the session. What did you learn? How useful it was to you? You can tag DigitalOcean and let's go crazy on the internet. Let's create a lot of traffic for Java Dev for this beautiful setup. They did a good thing for creating this platform for us to all learn and improve. So I think the least we could do is create some traffic and invite your friends to join the community so that they can also benefit from events like this. So go ahead. The Java Dev community is on LinkedIn and Twitter, I think. So you can all go there and tag and then connect with me on LinkedIn. You can throw me your questions. I'll do my best to answer your questions, and I'll always be accessible to anyone in the community. I think I am in the WhatsApp community, so if you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Just ask, tag me, or send me a private DM. I'll be able to answer your questions. Okay, there is a question. Please, what's part of the LEK stock that is used to collect metrics on the web application, for example? Oh, yes. So you can collect applications. Okay, web application. There are a lot. Like I said, a lot. But you see, the way you collect data from a web application is not direct. We have tools like LogRocket, right, which has its own implementation. Then we also have log what's it called, we have log libraries like Winston can actually work for the front end, but this is a trick, Abdul. This is a trick you can do. You can get usually in your web application you have errors that occur due to maybe data fetching. So you have a data fetching module that sends a request an API. Based on the performance, whether success or error, you send that through a pipeline to your API server, basically to your back end. So you can create maybe like log, front end log, so API slash v1 slash front end log, and then that front end log API route, basically that endpoint receives the log from your front end and stores it in your back end as a whole. So you have a single line of communication between your back end and your client. So that is going to facilitate the communication, and then your application is basically acting as one and all the logs going to the same place. And then based on that information you can tag it as either front end log or back end log. So depending on how you want to have this set up, it's all up to you. But yes, there are tools like Filebit, which basically listen on a more how do I put it, back end structure compared to what's it called, front end. Although you can configure Fluent Beats on the server to listen for logs on your front end, but by convention, logs are best situated at your backend. So what I said is you can create an endpoint for login, which will facilitate the storage of login from your application to your backend, and then you can from there dissipate the information to your central login system. Sentry does this properly well because you can literally just tag the information you're sending based on the type of platform it's coming from. So Sentry will usually ask you to create a system for both your backend and your front end, so you know where each of those information are coming from. And then depending on what you need, you can add extra tools like LogRocket or so many other tools you can use to get information out of your application. I hope this answers your question, Abdul. All right, you're welcome. Is there any other question, guys? Okay, if there are no more questions, I want to appreciate you guys for staying to the end. It's really a good step towards professional growth, because in every era you need to be growing in one way or the other, and technology is one industry where you find yourself growing a lot, because every minute we have different tools and services getting created and putting out there into the market. So it's not a rat race. You don't have to know everything. Like I said, you just need to know enough to do what you're good at, and then every other thing you can basically learn. All right, thank you so much for being here. You guys are amazing. Suraj, over to you.
Thank you, Precious, for joining us and sharing all the knowledge with the community, and really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you all for joining with us today. And I have already shared the form link, and you can share it over LinkedIn and also connect with Precious if there is any questions. And anyways, he's in the community. You can ask in the community itself. Okay, that is it for the day. And again, thank you. And we'll have another session coming up on the 25th. And be sure to join there as well. If there is anybody who's not yet in the community, please do join using the link that is shared in the chat box to our WhatsApp group. That's it. And thank you, everyone.